friends, it's Shuba and welcome back to my channel. January is almost over and I'm very excited to share with you all of the books that I want to read for the month of February. I have a stack right here and these are all of my physical books that I want to read. I have quite a few more ebooks and some audiobooks to share that are on my TBR for next month. Basically, it's already here, pretty much. I feel like this month is all over the place in terms of genres and what I have lined up, so hopefully I'll find a book for whatever mood fits me at that point in time as I get on into the month. We have thrillers and mystery, we have some contemporary fiction, romance, and fantasy, of course, with a very big release coming out. I'm happy to share that some of these books I am looking forward to reading, but also there are a few that aren't even out yet, and I have the opportunity from NetGalley to read and preview them before they even come out. But we'll get into what those books are and grab your beverage of choice and let's get started. This first book is Womb City by, I'm not even going to pronounce the name, but I'm going to put the title right here, and I have the audiobook. This science fiction book takes place in a future dystopian Botswana. Based on the cover, I think it's going to be a book that I will really like. The cover is just weird. I did mention this book in my 2024 most anticipated reads video. I will link it in the description box down below. But let's get back into this story. This story is about our main character. Her name is Neela, and we think that she has everything that she wants. She is very wealthy and famous in the architecture industry. She has her own architecture firm. She is rich. She has a family and she's married and she has a child on the way. The only issue is that the government requires to have control of women's bodies via a microchip. So removing all sense of independence. Neela just doesn't really have that, and neither do all of the other women in this society. Basically, Neela's body isn't her own, it's her husband's and it's her government's. I'll assume we'll learn more about the politics as we get into the book a little bit more and how this really relates to the microchip with the government. One evening, after a night of drugs and drinking and celebrating, she and her friend end up in a hit and run. And instead of calling the cops, they end up just disposing the body, which I think this is crazy. Obviously haven't really read the book yet, so I don't really know. But my thought process right now is, how is she going to get away with disposing of the body if there's a microchip inside of her where the government can see and feel everything that Neela is going through throughout the day? Like, how is she just gonna get away with it? I mean, we'll find out. Her victim's ghost begins to come back and haunt her throughout after this hit and run and disposing of the body. This dystopian society has turned quite into a horror, not only because there's a ghost that's just haunting Neela, but also the fact that your body is controlled by your partner and the government. Your body is not your own, and that is terrifying in itself, and I would not want to witness or experience that at all. I am new to this author, and to be quite honest, new to this type of book. I normally enjoy watching sci-fi and dystopian society-esque movies and TV shows, but I've never really read a book like this before, so I'm excited to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. The author is a fiction writer and poet from Botswana and has won quite a few awards for her writing, so I'm sure that this writing will be just as good as what she has done previously, and I'm excited to start this book. Yes, this next book is Crescent City No. 3 by Sarah J. Maas. This one is House of Flame and Shadow. There is so much hype going on right now regarding this book and this series. It is very, very popular, and I am on the bandwagon. I'm gonna read the book, but I will say that I don't really know how I feel about it. If you watched my vlog, which I will link in the description box down below, I read the first two books and I enjoyed the first one, but the second one just did not hit home for me. I just thought it was too long, and the only reason why I'm reading this third book that's coming out on January 30th is because of the last sentence of the second book, and if you know, then you know that second book ending. So alas, I will be reading this third book, even though the first two books just didn't hit home for me, and you know what? That's okay. I am hoping that Sarah J. Maas redeems herself with this third book that is coming out. I don't know, I just think that maybe I just didn't resonate with the characters very much, and the plot was just too long, and it was 800 pages of no substance, and then bam! That's it. Bam! Happens. So those are my thoughts. I know that not everyone feels the same way. Everyone loves this series and this book. And don't get me wrong, I am a Sarah J. Maas fan. I love her. I love Throne of Glass, one of my favorite series ever. And I do love ACOTAR as well. But I don't know. This isn't it. But that's okay. I will be reading it. I added this to my February TBR because I figured I'll start it in January on the 30th, and then I'll finish it in February. This next book is To Have and to Heist by Sara Desai. This genre isn't something that I normally gravitate to. I don't do romance or even contemporary romance. That's not really what I like to read, but love will be in the air in February, so I thought I'd give this a chance. I picked this book up from the bookstore quite a few months ago, and I haven't touched it since, but it's just always looking at me. So I told myself that I would be reading more books for my physical TBR, at least 2 a month. So this is one of those books. I also picked this book up because it is by a fellow South Asian queen. Sara Desai is biracial author. She is South Asian and Irish, I believe. And she tends to write more romantic comedies based on her Irish and South Asian background. So I'm excited to kind of read this comedy from her perspective and just have fun with it. Like I said, this is not really a genre that I read or pick up, but I think I'll still enjoy it. I like rom-coms, especially in the movies, you know? But To Have and to Heist is one of her most recent releases, and it's about our main character, Simi, who has to successfully accomplish a jewelry heist to exonerate her best friend during a wedding. Her best friend has been accused of stealing a multi-million-dollar diamond necklace. She meets Jack, our mysterious main character, who offers to help her find the stolen missing necklace, and now she ends up going on a mission to steal a necklace from a dangerous criminal at her wedding. So what could go wrong? A lot of things probably, but I know that love will be in the air, and hopefully she'll find the diamond necklace. But this book just seems very quirky and reminds me of Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 8, but with a little bit of thriller and romance added to it. So it should be a fun one. I've only heard good things about this book and all of Sara Desai's other books. They're supposed to be very quirky and fun and a good time to read. This next book that I want to read is The Fury by Michaelides. I hope I am pronouncing his name right. I'm not sure. I feel like I keep butchering it, but I'm just gonna go with Alex M moving forward. This is a book that I chose for my book of the month for last month, and to be honest, I love all of Alex M's books. I read The Silent Patient. I also read The Maidens, and I enjoyed both of them. Fast-paced thrillers, couldn't put them down, and I am sure this is going to be right up my alley and have that same fast-paced vibes. I don't know much about the book, but from what I do know, I know that this is a book about a group of famous friends who end up taking a spontaneous trip to a private Greek island. I wish I could do that with my friends. Ugh. But what happens is that there ends up being a murder and then one of the friends dies. I don't wish that is something that would happen on my Greek trip though. It sounds like this book is from the point of view of one of the friends who was at that trip, Elliot Chase. So this book is giving very much mystery and unreliable narrator vibes. I'm not really sure if I can trust Elliot, but we'll find out when I keep reading this book. I am pretty good about reading thrillers, and I read them very quickly because I just can't put them down. They're one of my favorite genres, so I'm excited to add this to my collection for February. This next book is Sugar Baby by Celine, Saintclare. This is a book that I selected from Aardvark Book Club. It is similar to Book of the Month, but more small business focused, and I believe they're a little bit newer, or at least I've recently just learned about them and thought that I would support them and join the club. But this is a contemporary fiction by a debut author, and this is a book about self-discovery with commentary on race, beauty, and class. Our main character, her name is Agnes. She is a mixed 21-year-old who still lives at home, works as a cleaner, and spends her money on the evenings and weekends just going to clubs and drinking and searching for distractions from her mundane, boring life. One day she meets Emily, the daughter of one of her cleaning clients, who lives in London and works as a model, and these models are called sugar babies because they date rich old men for money. It sounds like Emily's life is what Agnes is looking for, but her religious mother, Constance, thinks otherwise. Constance ends up kicking Agnes out of her home, and Agnes goes to live with Emily and the other sugar babies in a large London flat, and Agnes ends up getting drawn deeper and deeper into London's society of sugar babies. This book kind of reminds me of Bunny in terms of the plot of a society, but we'll see as I get into it how I might react to that. My reading journey thus far has led me to quite a lot of thrillers and fantasy and not as many contemporary fiction. So I am excited to pick up this book because it does talk about a little bit more controversial topics in society. This next book is Rouge by Mona Awad. You must have heard of Mona Awad before, but if not, she is the author of Bunny, and that was the weirdest book I've ever read in my entire life, up there with Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. Now, I only picked this book up because Mona Awad wrote it, so I don't know much about what this book is about at all. So I had to read the back and get Goodreads a little bit to tell me more about it. This is a gothic fairy tale about a lonely dress shop clerk whose mother's unexpected death sends her down a path in pursuit of youth and beauty. Can she escape her mother's fate and find a connection that is more than just skin deep? I read somewhere that this is more of like a gothic retelling of Snow White. Topics include cult-like nature of beauty standards and the industry emphasizing on the dark side of beauty, envy, and grief. We know that Mona Awad can turn any small tale into a twisted, dark, wild story, so I'm here for it and I'm expecting nothing less from her. Her writing can definitely be scary, but in a good way. Alright, so those are just the books that I have physical copies of or have the ebook of that I am planning to read for the month of February. I've been so lucky to be given the opportunity to read a few books that haven't even been released yet to the public, and I have their digital released copies on my Kindle. I have the Kindle Oasis. That's how I'm reading Woob City and how I read a lot of my Kindle Unlimited books. But these ebooks are on my Kindle, which is upside down. But I'm here to share with you what those books are. The first book is The Murder After the Night Before by Katy Brent, and this comes out February 1st. This is a dark comedy that is right up my alley. I'm so excited to read this story. This is about a girl who wakes up with a hangover, a stranger in her bed, and then her best friend being dead. The police think that it's an accident, but the main character does not think that's the case, and there's a killer on the loose. This story reminds me a lot of Flight Attendant on Max with Kaylee Cuoco. If you haven't watched it, very similar vibes. It's such a good show, and I love the thrills and the twists and turns that it has. So I'm hoping that this book has a similar storyline and plot, but obviously since they're very different, they will be. But yeah, I am just excited that it's going to be a quick read for me, and I can't wait to pick this up. The next book that I have is An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, which releases February 15th. This is the audiobook format that I do have from NetGalley that they have given me. An Education in Malice is a dark academia novel novel set in a mysterious Saint Perpetua's college in Massachusetts. This story revolves around Laura and her rival with Carmilla. Together they become entangled in a web of secrets, ambition, and strange ceremonies that define life at their college. There is a poetry professor that does get involved and adds another layer of intrigue with her dark obsession. As the rivalry transforms into something more enticing, Laura is forced to confront with her own desires. This narrative unfolds into a sinister game involving politics, bloodthirsty professors, dark magic, and queer romance. I was accepted to listen to the audiobook of this version, and I will be listening to this while I do all things multitasking in life. The second to last book that I have to share is Baby X by Kira Peikoff, which comes out March 5th. I do have the ebook version. This is a science fiction novel that takes place in a near future US society where advanced technology can create life from any biological matter. In this time period, celebrity DNA becomes a hot commodity and sought after on the black market. A famous singer named Trace Thorn is tired of being targeted by the DNA stealing Bolt and hires a biosecurity agent named Ember Ryan to protect his biological matter. I think there's going to be some will they, won't they between Trace and Ember, but we will see. We will see. Is love in the air? When a pregnant woman named Quinn claims that Trace is the father of her baby, the thriller takes an unexpected turn. Do you think it's going to be a triangle of love? This just seems like a fun and futuristic sci-fi novel involving stolen DNA. Normal, right? The last book that I have to share is Thirst by, I'm not going to pronounce their name, Marina Y. But you can read it right here. This book releases on March 5th, and I have the ebook version. This is a queer gothic horror with vampires, and I told you that vampires are back. Vampires are so hot in 2024. This is a dual POV and a dual time period novel about fear, loneliness, and mortality. Our first viewpoint is from a vampire's point of view and takes place in the 19th century Europe during the beginnings of the yellow fever. The second POV takes place in present-day Buenos Aires, where a woman finds herself dealing with her mother's terminal illness. She ends up meeting the vampire at a cemetery, and something ignites within them, and there's no turning back to what was. I want to read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in October, and part of the story echoes with her writing style, is what I've heard. Thirst plays with boundaries of female agency, the power of desire, and fragile vitality of even the most immortal of creatures. I'm looking forward to reading this book from a vampire's point of view, but in a way where vampires are humanized in some sort of way, giving emotions of life, love, and friendship. Alright friends, those were my 9 books and 1 audiobook that I'm planning on reading for the month of February. I know it is a lot, but February is an extra long month this year since there are 29 days for leap year. So I'm hoping that I'll find time to read all of these books. They're very different genres, so hopefully I'll find something that fits my mood whatever day it may be. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Comment down below and let me know what books you have lined up for your month of February and what you're planning on reading. Maybe we can tag team and buddy read together. I would love to do that. But until next time, I will see you again soon in another video. Bye!